this is Tracy, and today I'm going to be doing a video talking about red spot removal. I think I've already done like other spot removal videos, but I feel like I said this last time, I don't remember. I'll find them and I'll list them in the down bar below. They're in my like EDH videos playlist if you want to check that out. I have playlists for like a ton of my videos, in case you didn't know. It's pretty great if you want to go on an MTG Goddess, you know, watching spree. Just saying, you can do that. Okay, cool. So today we're going to be talking about red spot removal. I'm talking about this really, I would say, like in an EDH setting. Cards that you can run where if you just need to get rid of something on the board, these are cards which you can use to get rid of things. Yeah, okay, so let's talk about it. So, the first card is Ancient Grudge, and if you're running red-green, I think this card is really sweet. I really like how it's got the flashback cost for 1 mana, which I think makes this card pretty strong. I find in EDH, artifacts are one of like the #1 thing I would say I tend, just because of like my EDH setting, I would say when I play with one-on-one with Paul, or when I play with like my friends Justin and Eddie, artifacts kind of just fly around the table. Like we all run artifacts, even if it's just like basic mana rocks like Soul Ring or things like that. I really find getting rid of artifacts pretty important. Pertinent in EDH, it's a really great diction choice. Pertinent? That's really great. That's like a really good like SAT word, I feel. So, I was about to say if you need to take your SATs, you should go study for them, but then I realized that it's like summertime and I feel like people don't really take SATs during the summertime. So, still should study for your SATs if you haven't. The tests are really ridiculous. Anyways, so Ancient Grudge is a really great Magic card, and I like it. And let me tell you something, and I say this all the time with Flashback, but I feel like it's really relevant, is people forget about stuff in your graveyard. I know I forget about what's in my opponent's graveyard all the time. I'll just be like, psh, they got nothing going on in their graveyard, and they're like, Flashback Ancient Grudge, and I was like, damn, I forgot you had that. So I think that's another main advantage of running things where you can flash them back in your graveyard. Just saying. Okay, sweet. So we're on more of that artifact train. I'm talking about Vandalblast, just because I feel like red just really hates artifacts. Like red is just like so out there for artifacts. I really like this card a lot. I've actually run this, side note, as sideboards for EDH, depending on what the meta looks like. Really good against Affinity if you play Modern, just saying. I really like this card. I like it because you just have like that one red where if you really need to get something off the table, you can, or you can overload it so you can destroy them for 5 mana. 5 mana to destroy all artifacts, I don't really think is that bad. Another thing too I want to note about this card is it says, destroy target artifact you don't control. What I think is really important about this is, one, obviously, stating the obvious, it doesn't impact your board in terms of, oh, like you may have Soul Ring or Thran Dynamo or like other artifacts, it doesn't destroy yours, which is really good. But on the other note, say your opponent takes control of your turn with, not Ulamog, what is the big Eldrazi? Emrakul. With Emrakul or like Sorin not Solemn Visitor, the Black Sorin Markov, they take control of your turn or something like that. They can use Vandalblast, but it's gonna destroy their artifacts and not yours. So just letting you know, if you're in games where like people like to take control of, you know, your turns, yeah. Just saying, this is a really good card that's very anti that, because then they look at your Vandalblast and you're like, wow, I can't do anything with this because then I blow up my artifacts. Okay, classic. I feel like I should have mentioned this card first because, I mean, it's a classic red removal card. I mean, Lightning Bolt. I mean, yeah, this card's just really a staple. I don't really know if there's too much to say about it. It's instant, you destroy something. You can destroy a creature, you can just redirect the damage and do it to their face. I mean, really. It's a great card. It's a great multi-purpose card. I love the fact that it's you, or, I'm sorry, it's your opponent, or, their creature, so it's really good. Okay, then we have, I'm really hating on all these artifacts today. We have Shattering Spree. I feel like this card is really interesting, and I kind of like that it's got like that replicate cost, because you realistically can just pay whatever amount of mana you need to get certain artifacts off the table. So say, you know, you don't want to like destroy all artifacts, like we're going to talk about a card in a minute that does that. Say you're like, I want to destroy certain types of artifacts, but I want to keep some around because they're my artifacts or something like that. You know, or again, sometimes in a pinch you have 1 mana and you like need to get something off the table and you can't do anything else. You have to spend your mana on other things. Shattering Spree is a really good card for that, and I really like how it's got that flexibility and like how much mana you can pour into it or not. Okay, and then I think this is like the last card I actually talk about hate on artifacts. That is Shatterstorm. Really love the fact that this card says destroy all artifacts, and it says they can't be regenerated because I think it's the white card that's like open the gates or something like that. I think it's like an instant, or like there are cards that are like, oh, like things die, like you kill things and then they're like, oh, like regenerate all my artifacts, or like things like that. So if you know people in your playgroup who do things like that, this is a really good card to be against that. So I think Shatterstorm is a really good card. Okay, I'm going to talk about these cards side by side because they're very similar. So we have Warstorm Surge and Where Ancients Tread, and I run both of these cards actually in my Omnath EDH deck because it works really well in Omnath because I love it. Like, Omnath has so many different triggers going on, which is great. So, like, what'll happen is, like, I'll play, like, a land, so I get, like, a dude with Omnath, so there's that trigger. And then since I play a dude, it triggers Where Ancients Tread and Warstorm Surge, which is really fantastic. So I get both of those triggers, and it's just a lot of damage, does things places. But if you're running any sort of build where you're, like, flickering dudes, or you're, like, you're just playing a lot, like you're playing something like Omnath, these cards are really, really good. I like them a lot. Warstorm Surge is power to target creature or player, so you have that option of redirecting to the player if you want to. And Where Ancients Tread is only power 5 or greater. But really both of them are just absolutely fantastic cards. Like if you're running also like really just big dudes, like you're playing like a maybe green-red stompy deck, like, or even like a Naya stompy deck, and you're just playing really dumb big creatures, like these cards are really, really good in them. And again, I like the option of whenever you play it, you can, you know, kill a creature or do lots of damage to a creature, or you can redirect it, you know, to player. I really love that option. I like play around with these cards all the time. Like I love having them in my deck, and now I really want to play my Omnath deck because I like haven't played EDH in actually a really long time, and Paul's away actually, so I'm like, I have like no one to play Magic with right now. I shouldn't say I have no one to play Magic with, that's actually just totally a lie, but then I have to like actually go out of my house and play Magic with people. That's like so much effort, so we're not gonna go there. But yeah, these cards are really fantastic. I really like them. I definitely recommend running both of them if you have like the power 5 or greater for Where Ancients Tread, but if not, Warstorm Surge, both of them, they're really good, great cards. Okay. Sweet. So the next card is Chaos Warp, and I've actually never played with this card before, but I remember when this came out, I know Justin was a huge fan of this card. I remember, who remembers the days where you could actually tuck commanders? I remember those days where people could be like, oh, like your commander, and I feel like Chaos Warp lost a little bit of value because it was a really good card to do that to someone's commander, be like, shuffle that back in. And then the EDH Council was like, that's actually broken and that shouldn't be a thing, which I actually have to say, I do agree with them on that. So the owner of target permanent shuffles it into their library, then reveals top card of your library. If it's permanent, you put it on the battlefield. So you give them a little bit of an advantage because they get something out of it where they get to put it on the battlefield if it is a permanent. However, shuffling something back is really good. It gets around indestructible, which is really fantastic, which I really like. It's also instant speed. It's 3 mana. It's really not that much mana, which I think is really good. And I don't know, I just like this card. I think it's like a fun sort of removal EDH card, though it's like kind of removal because it's like, it just goes back in their like library, so it's not like totally broken, totally unfair, but I don't know. I think if you're like really lost in a situation about removal, I think this card's pretty solid. Okay, this was a card, I wrote this list a long time ago because I write my lists on like these little pieces of paper and then I write them in like lists of 10. And I wrote this card down and I honestly like forgot like about this card until I had to look it up because I was like, I don't even remember what this card does. Impact Resonance. Okay, so it deals X damage divided amongst you choose amongst any number of target creatures where X is the greatest amount of damage dealt by a source to a permanent or player this turn. Wording of this is a little bit confusing, it's a little bit strange, but I think this card is really solid. I think it works really well in like any sort of like red burn strategy where you're just dealing like massive amounts of damage to your opponent. Like I remember I showed this deck tech in my, yeah, I definitely showed this deck tech, but I had a Keranos EDH and it kind of did stuff like this in the deck where it like did a lot of damage and then it like ooh, and you know what that's like reminding me of? I had this really sweet idea for a deck, and now I kind of want to like rebuild the deck and do a mock deck tech EDH on it. It was actually really sweet. It was like, I think it was Naya colored, which is an unusual color combination for me. It was kind of like Naya tokens, but it was like a redirecting kind of deck where you like redirected damage places and then you're on like Hornet Nest, which reminds me, it was kind of like that bee deck that I think it was in Standard, that guy ran like bees, and it was really great. But anyways, it was really sweet, and you like a redirect damage. I'm gonna write that down, and I'm gonna jot that down on my list, because that was a really sweet deck, and I never went through that, I never followed through, but I'll do a mock deck tech on that. Anyways, that doesn't relate to this, really. So, yeah, but if you're doing any sort of thing where you're doing, like, mass amounts of damage... Oh, so my Keranos deck. So what it kind of did is I ran, like, Comet Storm and, like, sweet things like that, and then I just did, like, massive damage. Like, I had, like, 15 mana on the board, and I was like, here you go, take 15, and it was really sweet. Yeah, this card's really interesting. I think it can totally be a heavy hitter, and it's also 2 mana at instant speed. Where X is the greatest... So... really note in the wording of this, because again it can be a little confusing, where X is the greatest amount of damage dealt by a source to a permanent or player this turn. So you don't necessarily have to do the damage yourself, someone else can do this damage, and then you kind of take the damage and like divide it amongst you, choose amongst anything. You can kill creatures, you can do damage, split it amongst your opponents. I think can definitely be a political card if you're someone who plays political games of EDH, because you can kind of like divide the damage up as you choose. So I think this card is really sweet. And the last card, this is like an honorary removal card. I don't know if I'd quite be like, this is a removal card, because sometimes it can be, but sometimes it can't be, and that's Browbeat. Okay, so any player may have them deal 5 damage to themselves, but if they don't, you get to draw 3 cards for like 3 mana. So I think this would be really sweet in decks where you like bring back cards a lot, because, you know, you do like Browbeat and, what is that? There's just like eyeshadow or like something on my laptop, and I was like, what are you? Just like fairy dust or something on my laptop. Anyways, so, what was I saying? Oh yeah, Browbeat. So, they can take 5 damage. Oh yeah, so if you're like bringing stuff back, I feel like if you're doing like Graveyard Recursion, I think this is a really sweet card, because then you could just keep hitting someone for 5. Or you just get to draw 3 cards out of it. Like, I think that's really sweet. I think this is a really strong card. I love the flexibility in that, because if not, for 3 mana you get to do 5 damage somewhere. Like, it's pretty great. Or 3 mana you get to draw 3 cards, which is fantastic. So I really love the duality, I would say, of this card. So, yeah guys, that was it. That was it for talking about red spot removal. Kind of like, I wouldn't say like spot removal. I would just say like removal in general. I will list the other videos that I've done on this topic. Again, I have no idea which ones I've done, but I'll list them in the down bar below. That's it. I'll talk to you guys later.